Don't you like the last verse of that song? Though the wrong seems oft so strong, God is the ruler yet. And this morning we can rejoice in the fact that our God is sovereign. I want to direct your attention this morning to begin with to Psalm 91 and appreciate you turning over there. If you were here a couple weeks ago on Wednesday evening, I preached a message from Psalm 91, and before a lot of the things that have transpired in just the last couple of days. And if you were not here, you might want to go back and listen to that message, just as we went through verse by verse, phrase by phrase in Psalm 91 and reminded ourselves of God's sovereignty and His ability to protect His people. And I want to read the first two verses of Psalm 91 as we introduce this morning some thoughts for our lesson. And specifically this morning, I want to talk to you about the pandemic panic. And I want to talk to you about some of the things that are going on around us and try to give a biblical perspective, as well as spell out a plan of action for our church family in the days ahead. I know there's a number of people that are joining with us by live stream this morning. There are a lot of people sick right now with a nasty stomach bug that's going around, and there's a lot of other different things that are being shared, germs that are being shared, in addition to the virus that has gripped everyone's attention in the news. Psalm 91, verse 1 and 2 says, "He that dwelleth in the secret place of the Most High shall abide under the shadow of the Almighty. I will say of the Lord, He is my refuge and my fortress, my God, in Him will I trust." Go down to verse number 5. "Thou shalt not be afraid for the terror by night, nor for the arrow that flieth by day, nor for the pestilence that walketh in darkness, nor for the destruction that wasteth at noonday." As we were preaching through this passage a couple weeks ago, we pointed out that the word pestilence refers to the type of viral disease that is currently being spoken about on every news channel nearly every minute of the day. And this morning I want to speak to you for just a little bit about this pandemic and some of the fear that is going on. I don't think I need to inform you this morning that we're living in a unique time of crisis and panic that is gripping not just our country, but our entire world. There are countries now, entire countries, that are shutting down completely, and our own country has shut our borders with several other countries. We're no longer allowing people in and out in different ways. We see in response to this crisis and the panic all kinds of responses. And honestly, this morning I'm not here to talk about what you think about whether this is real or not. I know there's people on one side that say it's a big hoax, there's nothing to it. I personally don't know that I can agree with that anymore. There's other people who are completely panicking. Whatever your opinion is, it doesn't matter. None of us are experts. None of us are out in the field seeing what's happening and what medical personnel are dealing with. Some people think this is going to end up with a huge reduction in the world population. Who knows? I think in the middle of it, we probably just need to take a balanced approach, and we want to look at what the Bible says about some of that approach. But, even if you're skeptical this morning of the reality of the virus, and you say, I don't think it's that big of a deal, we all have to admit that we're definitely living with a level of panic in our country that we have rarely seen, and we're being affected by that. This level of panic that is gripping many people's lives is impacting our daily lives. Everything from school and business closures, which just on Friday, our governor announced that all K-12 schools in the state of Pennsylvania will be closed for at least 2 weeks. Just on Friday as well, they put in place extra social distancing measures in Montgomery and Bucks County, which is very close to us, closing down all non-essential businesses. And so we realize that our lives are being impacted. You go to the grocery store and you were hoping to get some toilet paper, and for some reason there's none left anywhere. And I went to Wise last night to get a couple things for my wife that she needed for making something, and I went in there, and some things are just completely wiped out, and other things, there's lots of. So I think some of us just have to expand our palates of taste, at least for a little while, and eat some other things. The stock market has melted down in the last couple of weeks. Many people have lost, at least on paper, tens of thousands of dollars in value in their IRAs, 401ks. This causes people great distress. On and on and on we could go. And people are living under a great deal of psychological stress, especially when you turn on the news and every news article practically, every spot in the television news is highlighting some person who's dying, some person who got it, what it's like, and all of this sort of thing. It is constantly being put in front of us. And might I say, might be good just to turn off the news for a while so you can de-stress a little bit. There's no doubt that the media is definitely fanning the flames of this and feeding a lot of this panic because, and I think it's very easy to understand why, their revenue is driven by people putting eyeballs on stories and seeing advertisements that go along with that. This is a very attention-grabbing thing, so why wouldn't they be trying to sell news and advertising in this way? It's their business. That's what they do. And so we should understand that as God's people. But it is important that we think biblically and with God's wisdom about these kind of events. I think that one day we're going to look back at this time in our lives and we're going to realize that it changed us, that it changed our country, and that it had a profound effect on our lives. I don't know that it will rise to the level, it might, of something like 9/11. If you were alive then you know that changed a lot of your perception of the world. It was an instantaneous event. In a day, our view of the world and our sense of safety and that sort of thing was drastically changed. I think this event could be similar to that. So we want to look at a couple of things, first of all, with some perspective from the Bible, and then I want to talk practically about some things that we want to implement here and a plan going forward. And then third of all, I want to talk a little bit about some of the opportunities that I believe God is putting before us in this season. First of all, let's just talk about the reality of fear. And I realize that some of you are probably saying, the fact that you're here says you're not that afraid, right? You're not that concerned. And I've run into all different people out and about this week. Some people who are like, I'm not afraid at all. It's the stupidest thing I've ever heard of. This is great. We're gonna go hang with our buddies. And then I've run into other people who are absolutely terrified. And, it seems then some people are kind of in the middle. So we want to talk, biblically speaking, about our fears. And no matter what you think about this right now, understand that the longer this goes on, and if it becomes more widespread, you may get to the place where you begin to battle some fears. I think, honestly, there's some legitimate concern that we should have for the elderly members of our church and for those with compromised immune systems. We want to respect the fact that this could be very dangerous for them if, in fact, they pick this virus up. But we got to think about our fears. And there's a couple of anchoring truths that help us with our fears. These are not all of the anchoring truths, but there's 4 that I want to share with you. The first one, I want you to turn to James chapter 4 and verse number 14. James chapter 4 and verse number 14. Many of you know this verse, and when you get there, you'll understand why we're looking at it. But James chapter 4 and verse number 14 reminds us of this truth that earthly uncertainty is real. In other words, we live in a constant state of risk. James 4:14 says, "Whereas ye know not what shall be on the morrow. For what is your life? It is even a vapor that appeareth for a little time, and then vanisheth away." At the at the heart of this truth is the fact that our lives are short. Our lives are a vapor. Can I put it this way? One day, you're going to die. One day, I'm going to die. Unless the Lord comes and calls us back before that time, we're going to get a disease. We're going to die in a car accident. Something is going to happen to us, and we are going to pass into eternity. And we live with that truth, or we should live with that truth on our mind every day. Life is a vapor. We should live like life is short. Many people are trying to live like life is long, like life is all there is, like there's nothing but this life. But I want you to understand this morning that earthly uncertainty is very real. Now, when something like COVID-19 comes into our minds and understanding, it causes people to be made more aware of earthly uncertainty. But the truth is that it's always been that uncertain. I was sharing with one of the men this morning, a couple months ago, I was renewing my water operator's license certification. Never mind what that's all about. I have to do that to satisfy some things for the PA DEP here at the church. And the course that I chose to take was on epidemiology and water testing. And the whole course was about all the things that could get into our drinking water that could kill us. And I'll tell you, by the time I ended the course, I thought, why are any of us alive? I'm pretty sure we should all be dead right now. Because the truth is, we're exposed to things all the time that are attacking our body system. Now, along with that earthly uncertainty is the truth that we are fearfully and wonderfully made. And it is a wonderful truth that God has given our bodies the resilience and the ability to oftentimes fight these things off. But we understand that earthly uncertainty is real. I mean, you got in your car this morning and you came to church in your car and you didn't necessarily register the thought or think about it, but there is a possibility that you could have gotten in a car accident and you could have gone into eternity instantly. There's risk all around us all the time. Earthly uncertainty is real. When people put all of their confidence in the earth and the things of the earth, when something like what we are going through right now happens, their whole world is completely shaken. Earthly uncertainty is real. Here's a second anchoring truth for us, and that is in James chapter 5, verse 10 and verse 11. I've been reading in my devotions through the book of Job and just finished this morning. And we find here in verse number 10 of James 5, "Take my brethren the prophets who have spoken in the name of the Lord for an example of suffering, affliction, and of patience. Behold, we count them happy which endure. Ye have heard of the patience of Job and have seen the end of the Lord, that the Lord is very pitiful and of tender mercies." Now, I want you to understand, second of all, not only is earthly uncertainty real, but second of all, suffering is expected. For the child of God, even suffering is expected. If for some reason you thought being a Christian would excuse you from all suffering or difficulty in your life, you need to think again. You need to go back and look again at what the Bible says, because the Bible is full of examples of God's choicest servants suffering. You know, the reality is you and I are likely going to experience suffering. Whether it is from some kind of a virus or from some other sort of trouble in our life, suffering is real. Suffering tests our faith, and hopefully suffering causes us to look to the Lord. But this morning, a lot of people, we think about in our country, we live in a very comfortable way in the United States of America. We're used to having excellent medical care. We're used to having all the luxuries that we could ever imagine. In fact, when we go to the store and they're out of something, we are ticked off. Because why didn't they know I needed that, and why didn't they keep enough of that in stock? And we think that we're being persecuted or that we're really enduring trouble because we can't find enough toilet paper for our house. And, can I break it to you gently? There's worse things that could happen to us than toilet paper shortages. Suffering is a reality. Suffering is something that we can expect. Physical ailments, all kinds of these things. And we need to understand this morning, we need to get our mindset, just because I'm serving the Lord does not mean I'm going to be excused from suffering. In fact, it's likely that you will go through suffering. Third of all, turn to Isaiah chapter 40. These anchoring truths are so important, and I hope will help you to understand some of the things I'm going to talk about in just a moment practically. Isaiah chapter 40, verse 21 through 23, we're reminded, third of all, this anchoring truth, God is sovereign. God is in control. There is nothing that catches our God by surprise. There is nothing that somehow sneaks up on him. And in verse 21 of Isaiah 40, and I love the whole chapter, we just don't have time to read it. He asked the question, have ye not known? Have ye not heard? Hath it not been told you from the beginning? Have ye not understood from the foundations of the earth? It is he that sitteth upon the circle of the earth, and the inhabitants thereof are as grasshoppers, that stretcheth out the heavens as a curtain, and spreadeth them out as a tent to dwell in, that bringeth the princes to nothing. He maketh the judges of the earth as vanity. Nations think that they are really something. We can endure. We can get through anything. I'm going to tell you something. Our God sits in the heavens and laughs at the nations, especially the nations that have rebelled against him. This morning, understand that God is sovereign. I don't know all that God is doing in the midst of this, but I have no doubt that God is at work in the world around us. I have no doubt that this did not somehow sneak by God, but God is fully aware of what is taking place in each and every one of our lives as well as across the world. And I'm thankful that in the midst of God's sovereignty, God is good. Amen. He is a good God. And we can have confidence in his goodness to us, even referring back to the second principle, when we suffer and when we go through hardship. Finally, in Titus chapter 1, I want you to see something here, another anchoring truth. Titus chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. Earthly uncertainty is real. Suffering is expected. God is sovereign. Fourth of all, our hope is eternal. Titus chapter 1, Paul, a servant of God and an apostle of Jesus Christ, according to the faith of God's elect and the acknowledging of the truth which is after godliness, in hope of eternal life, which God, that cannot lie, promised before the world began. And I love how it references the faithfulness of God in making this promise of eternal life. Aren't you thankful that this morning we have a hope of eternal life? We have a hope of the resurrection. The best I can hope for in this world is that I could stay healthy and live a long and prosperous life. That's the best I can hope for in this world. But I have a greater hope than that. I'm looking for a city that has foundations, whose builder and maker is God. I'm looking for a different hope than the temporal hope that many of the people in this world have pegged their thoughts and dreams to. The truth is, this morning, if this next week my IRA bottoms out to zero, I still have a home in heaven. Amen. I still have a hope that is eternal. The truth is, if this week I come down with some kind of a dreaded disease and am diagnosed with COVID-19 or cancer or heart disease, or who knows what, I have something that is waiting for me on the other side. And I can have confidence in the hope that God has given to me. And so this morning, when we understand these 4 anchoring truths, it helps us to have a better perspective of the fear that is all around us. I was talking with a pastor friend of mine the other day, and we were talking about why toilet paper? I mean, this isn't dysentery that we're talking about, right? And as far as I know, we're not having any shortages of toilet paper. And he's like, what is going on? Why is it, word gets out, the store has toilet paper, and people line up, and they rush the store like it's Black Friday to get a flat screen television, and they're going out with their bunches of toilet paper, and what is going on? And I made the observation, and I think it's true, that in times of fear, people have a psychological response to do things that makes them feel like they are in control. That's right. People cannot make sure, for positive sure, that they don't get this virus. And so what they can do is go buy bottled water and toilet paper so that they can make sure, I'm going to make sure that is taken care of. I'm going to make sure that at least we don't have to worry about running out of toilet paper or running out of water. Again, bottled water. I haven't heard anything about the power getting shut off and water no longer being delivered to our houses, but people are buying bottled water as fast as they can. Now, this morning, if you went out and bought toilet paper and bottled water, I'm not upset with you. I got toilet paper last week, okay? Because, hey, it's kind of an important thing. But if that's what is making people feel secure, and that's, they're doing things to make themselves feel safe. And some people by the end of this are going to be compulsive hand washers, or they're going to go through gallons of alcohol-based hand sanitizer, because they're so terrified of what. I hate to break it to you, but I'm not sure if you've thought much about putting alcohol on your hands all the time, what that's doing to you. It's probably, there's a balance here. We've got to be careful. We've got to understand some things. And so we need to calm our fears. We need to have a perspective, and here's why I've shared some of these things, not so much so that you can calm your fears, because I think many of you have this well in hand, but you have loved ones and neighbors and friends. And if this becomes an extended situation, I don't know that we understand the level of panic that we will see in our country if people begin to lose more and more autonomy and control. And we as God's people need to be prepared for that with Bible answers. Now, I want to talk for just a little bit about some practical things. And I'll be honest with you, I made some comments on Wednesday night at the conclusion of the service, which I almost didn't make because I thought, I don't want to scare anybody. I don't want to say things that seem out of turn. I had no idea what was going to be announced by our president on Wednesday night. And when I went home and watched the announcement, I was absolutely floored. And I'm thinking, wow, okay. So what happened was Wednesday night, a lot of things drastically changed in people's perception. All of a sudden, this is serious. All of a sudden, the authorities are taking this very seriously. And so as a staff here at the church, we've put our heads together Thursday and Friday. We've been working on some things. It's been a fairly stressful few days. And we've been trying just to think about all of the different angles and the contingency plans. And I want to address some of those with you now so that everyone understands what is going to happen. I felt it was important that we would have services today. Many of you know that our governor has asked that there would not be public gatherings over 250 people. And I believe we'll be within the boundaries of his request today because many of our church families will not be in attendance because of illness or because of concern about picking something up. And so we will do everything that we can to comply with what the authorities are asking us to do. I do foresee that we may, within a week, be in a place where we are not able to assemble in this manner. But we wanted to talk personally about some of these things so that we understand, and then it's logged as well online for those who cannot be here so that they know what's happening and what's going on. So for right now, our plans are to continue our public services within the boundaries of what has been suggested by our governor, and we'll be careful about that. We want to make sure that we're following what the authorities are asking us to do. If that is taken away because of further restrictions, which I think is probably going to take place, those further restrictions are in place in Bucks County and Montgomery County, which is just next to us, so I don't think it's going to be long till it's here, probably within the next couple of days. We would have the option. We have a couple of options, and we haven't fully decided. A lot will depend on what is announced and what the mandates are, etc. We would have the option of reducing our congregation size by having split services on a Sunday morning, and so part of the congregation could come for one service, part of the congregation could come for another service so that we can have more distance between people, etc., etc. We would not have Sunday school in that event. I'm not sure that that's what we'll be doing. I'm just putting that out there as a possibility of something that we may encounter. We also may get to the place where we do not have public services at all for a couple of weeks, and that would be based on the recommendations that are given. I do believe we may get to that point where we're not able to have a public service. In that case, we will have a service. There will be preaching that will be live streamed, and so you will be able to tune in from your home via the live stream. I can at least bring my family over here and I can preach to them, and you can listen in, all right? We have the live streaming capabilities, and we'll make sure to utilize that during this time because we don't want to stop being the Lord's church during this time. Along with that, we're really working hard to try to sterilize the building extra, and so a couple times a week we're going through the building with you can't get bleach, which, actually bleach is a very harsh cleaner anyway, if you didn't know this, all right, it's not that great for you. I was talking to one fella at the cleaning place that we go to, and he said one of his employees, he came in and he was spraying bleach all over himself, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And he said, "I don't want to get any viruses." And he's like, "You're going to get something else doing that." This is not a rational response. So we have procured actually a food-safe disinfectant that is used in commercial kitchens. It's approved for use on surfaces where food is prepared. It kills every bit as much as bleach and then some. It kills about everything that can be known. It's the type of thing that we can spray and wipe and leave. It's very safe, and it's something that we can use throughout the building. We have that on hand, so we're trying to sterilize the building as frequently as possible during the week, doing our very best with that. It's a virucidal, blah, 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 all those kind of things, all right? So we're doing the best that we can with that. We are also not, and I'm going to say this again, not going to be shaking hands, hugging, or initiating other forms of physical contact. I know some of you are like, big deal, it's no problem. Please, if you walk up to someone and you think it's no big deal and you stick your hand out and then they feel guilty and they stick their hand out, just at this point, let's honor the social distancing things that the government is asking us to do, and let's withhold from those. Even while you're at church, we recommend that you would wash your hands frequently using soap and water. If we all don't know how to wash our hands by the time this is over, I don't know what we'll do. But actually, soap and water is the very best thing that you can do to cleanse your hands and to, if you had picked this virus up, The fats that are in the soap actually break down the outer protective wall of the virus and destroy it. So it's much, much better than alcohol-based hand sanitizer to wash your hands. That said, have hand sanitizers through the church. You should know that some of those hand sanitizers, particularly the ones in the foyer, are not alcohol-based. So they do not meet the 60% alcohol recommendation. We cannot get alcohol-based hand sanitizer right now. We've tried. They're sold out everywhere that we've looked. So it's not like those don't do anything, but they're not meeting the CDC's requirements. In other parts of the building, the hand sanitizer that is there is alcohol-based in the downstairs. The difference is the ones that you push and pump, those have an alcohol base. The ones that are automatic that you put your hands under, that is a different format of hand sanitizer, just so you know. You would be better off washing your hands with soap and water in the bathroom even while you're here. If you are coughing, have a fever, or do not feel well, please stay home. If you think that you might be ill, please stay home. Obviously, we don't have to think that every person who coughs has COVID-19. We don't have to flip out about that. However, people are definitely more sensitive right now. It's terrible timing because allergy season is about to begin. And there's a whole bunch of us that are going to be sneezing, coughing, and runny noses because every year this time, that's what happens. And it's going to end up making a lot of people nervous. But if you are not feeling well, please just stay home, and this would be in the event that we're able to continue having services. If you are elderly or you have a fragile immune system, please stay home. We don't want you to get ill. We want to protect those in our congregation. Several of our church members whose hearts are here contacted me and said it would be best for us to be home, and I agree with them 100%. The services will be streamed. You'll be able to connect in that way and hear the preaching. Hopefully this will be just for a couple of weeks, and we'll get past the worst of this, and we can try to get back to normal. But please don't take chances. I encourage you just to stay home. Let's talk a little bit about our technology tools. We have had live stream for a long time. It's currently available. Most of you are familiar with that. If for some reason you are not familiar with our live stream, I would encourage you to avail yourself of that opportunity. It is available through our YouTube channel, so you can go on YouTube and you can search for the name of our church, and whenever there's a live service, it will show up in the YouTube app or on the web page for YouTube. You can also go to our church website and you can access the streaming through there. We will do the very best that we can with those tools, understanding that they will be more burdened than normal with people tuning in. We are also working on some options for smaller groups to be able to meet via an app such as Google Meet for Bible study and prayer. Should that become necessary, and we've been working on some solutions, I appreciate Pastor Gable looking into that. We have some options in regards to that which we can roll out and make it possible, because, watching a live stream is not the same as having communication. And so being able to gather together in a virtual way, pray together, share prayer requests, needs, that sort of thing, study the scriptures together, could become important. We don't know that it will. We're not going to roll those things out yet at this point, but if it becomes necessary, we will notify you of those opportunities. At this time, can I ask you, are you connected to our church announcements via email, Facebook, or text? There's a screen behind me that has all sorts of information on it. Maybe you want to jot some of these things down. We have an emergency text notification system, which you can join simply by texting at LVBCTXT to that number, 81010. You will get text notifications whenever they are sent out. If, for instance, if we need to let everybody know no services on Wednesday night or on Sunday morning, we would be able to send out a text message like that. Our email list, you can go to our church website, /info, and there you can complete the form to sign up for our email list to receive different announcements and things especially pertaining to this situation. You can feel free to reach out to any of us if you have any needs or questions. My cell phone is up there. Pastor Gable's cell phone is up there. The other fellows have cell phones, and I'm sure would be able to field your questions, and you can touch base with them. You can also follow us on Facebook, so we will do our best to cross-post. If things are emailed, we'll try to cross-post those things to Facebook so that those of you, and I know for some of you, email is like ancient technology, and you hardly ever open your email program, and that's fine. You prefer maybe to use Facebook. We'll try to cross-post things so that you can stay updated as well. And we'll do our very, very best to keep you in the loop about what is going on and decisions that are being made. Now, if you need help with these items, with the email list or Facebook, etc., you're not sure how that works and how to sign up, just let us know. We'll be glad to help you. Don't let me know, because I probably not be much help. But you can talk to Pastor Gable. You can talk to, probably Brother Joel could help you with that. He has a little knowledge of that. Brother Anger has some understanding of that, or at least they can point you to the right person. I would just say, well, it was on the overhead. Did you write it down? Be thinking about our members at this time. Are there members that are in need? If this becomes a prolonged situation, and some of our members with compromised immune systems, those who are elderly, are not able to get to the store, are not able to pick up prescriptions, as a church family, this is our moment to be able to minister to them. And so if you know of someone who has a need, ask yourself the question first, can I meet the need? If you are not able to meet the need, please let me know so that we can get someone to meet the need. We don't want anything to fall through the cracks. We want to make sure that our membership is taken care of at this time and that no one is forgotten. There are some changes to the offering which we're going to be making, which I mentioned in my email, but I'll mention again at this time. I want to recommend that you would take advantage of the digital giving interface, which has been available for some time and which many of you use through our website. And that is on our website, /give, I believe. Okay, so lvbaptist.org/give. You can set up an account there, and you would be able to give your offerings there in that place. We will no longer be receiving our offering in the normal way, because if you think about it, you pass a plate and everybody touches it, and there's lots of germs going around. We have been cleaning the offering plates, by the way, in between services to mitigate that. But what we're going to do is instead, on Sunday morning, we'll have some ushers at the doors. And if you would like to give your offering with an envelope, and we would really prefer that you would use a check as opposed to cash at this time, but so be it. If you give cash, the deacons will make sure to wash their hands. And filthy lucre gives it new meaning, doesn't it? But we'll be taking the offering at the door on Sunday morning. On Sunday evening, we'll do the same as we have been doing for Wednesday evenings, and that is the box in the back is available. You can drop your offering in there. Obviously, the easiest would be for all of us the digital giving format. And understanding that if this becomes prolonged and begins to affect our country as it has other countries, people are going to be out of work, income is going to be cut, and it is going to have a dramatic effect in many ways on our economy as well as on our church. And so we just want to make those recommendations to you. The offertories, as long as we're having services, will be just incorporated as a special number into the regular service. we have to talk as well about in the event of a confirmed test of a church member. If one of our church members who has been in attendance is confirmed as carrying the virus, then if you were in attendance, it will become necessary for you to self-quarantine for 2 weeks. This is actually a good question for you to ask before attending the services. Can you afford to self-quarantine for 2 weeks? And think about that in light of attending services. But then you also have to think that you could be exposed to this anywhere, not just in a setting like church. But we understand that there is a risk that we could be exposed to COVID-19. In the event that this positive test, one of our members tests positive, then we would need to just be careful about self-quarantining. At that point, we would cancel all public services for 2 weeks. We would move to our plan of live streaming and meeting online until that time would be up, and then we would reevaluate. I want to just settle in our minds this morning that it's not a shameful thing if someone ends up getting this virus. You didn't do anything wrong. If somebody comes down with this, it's not like, I can't believe they got it. What we're hearing is that you can be asymptomatic or mildly symptomatic for several days and be carrying the virus without even realizing it. And it is just a reality. That's part of the reason that it's spreading. And so there's no shame that is in this. So please, if you are diagnosed with COVID-19, don't think, oh, I just won't tell anybody. Please let us know so that we can inform everyone else, so that we can take the proper measures to not spread things further. If you absolutely cannot afford to self-quarantine, please stay home. Do not come to the services. I would hate for you to come here and then get upset because you picked up something and you couldn't afford to self-quarantine. So think about that ahead of time. We won't be offended if you feel like you can't be in the service. There's no way really to know who might be carrying the virus before the symptoms are manifested. As far as EBA is closed. As per the governor's announcement on Friday, there will be no school for at least the next 2 weeks. All EBA parents should have already been contacted, but Mr. Anger will be meeting with you after the AM service in this room to discuss the plan going forward, and he's got a plan laid out for that. Okay, those are all the practical things that I can think of, and I want to spend just the last few minutes here really focusing our attention on what I think is the most exciting part about this. And you say, exciting? Whenever there is a crisis, there is an opportunity. And as God's people, we know that God is sovereign. None of this has caught him by surprise. I want you to understand that right now, people's hearts can be incredibly tender because the foundation that they have been building on is shaken. They've been building their life on their health, on their retirement funds, on their career, and all of a sudden their world is rocked by things like this. That's why there's such a widespread panic, and people's hearts can be tender. We as believers must not allow fear to be our focus. Now, we have to be wise, we have to be diligent, we have to be proactive to protect especially those who are in danger of being infected in our congregation, but we don't need to be afraid. We don't need to let fear be the main focus. Rather, I believe that there are some tremendous opportunities that God is putting before us. We had a time of planning on Friday just talking about some of the opportunities that may come out of this. I want to share some of those things with you. A lot of these are dependent upon how long is this situation going to stretch out. If it's just a matter of a few days, then we probably won't have time to roll these things out. If it's more of an extended situation, then I foresee that there could be some great opportunities for ministry. The first thing that we are working on right now is some online Bible studies and videos that we can be able to push out to people. If people are not going to work, they're at home, they're quarantined, then we know they're going to be on their computers. And so there will be opportunities to be able to connect with them. And we're developing some materials, thinking through some ideas with that, and excited about some opportunities in regards to that. That'll be something that we'll do regardless, but this could be a unique season for some of those things. Second of all, we're going to be doing some Facebook ads to promote some gospel literature and some Bible studies on Facebook while people are stuck at home. And just trying to drive some traffic to some of these opportunities to find out God's perspective on these things. Third of all, we've had this idea. I don't know if it's something that will become a reality, but we have begun offering to do Bible studies using video and meeting people online using video and being able to teach them the Bible study and share with them the truth of God's Word. Obviously, people are a little bit afraid of face-to-face contact right now, but we could have opportunities to minister through there's all kinds of different programs which allow this. If you're interested in being a part of something like this, should we get some requests, you just let us know and we'll put you on the list to let people understand. The fourth thing that we're working on is a ministry that I believe are going to call Love Delivered. And you know that many people are afraid. Many of the people who are afraid are people who are vulnerable to the disease. People who feel stuck. They don't feel safe going to the store because they're afraid they're going to pick up a virus. And we would like to be a help. We want to try to offer to deliver grocery and prescription orders for people right here in our community and try to minister to people that have those kind of needs. That's a physical need that is on the mind of a lot of people right now. But there is, along with that, a spiritual need, because when we come with that which we've gone to pick up for them, we'll have an opportunity to meet their emotional and spiritual needs by offering to pray with them and give some spiritual counsel. And I believe building some relationships with people right here in our immediate community and ministering to them during this time of need. So we're putting that all together. You may be thinking about your own neighborhood. We're going to be focusing primarily on the Emmaus, Makunji area, right here close to the church building. But maybe some of you live a little farther out, and maybe you're thinking right now, I can think of 3 neighbors in my neighborhood who are elderly and who might not be wanting to get out in this time. And there'd be a great opportunity for you to make contact with them and offer your services as their neighbor to help them during this time, show the love of Christ to them, and build a relationship which down the road could bear fruit and allow you opportunity to share Christ with them. We're going to be trying to put together some flyers that will explain this opportunity that we're going to be using with some area stores. And if you would like to have some of those flyers to be able to put your own information on for your neighborhood, you let us know. And once they're ready to go, we'll let you know and you can pick them up. There's probably some other ideas, and this has been a whirlwind of a week. To be honest with you, my head is spinning. I can't believe how much things have changed since Wednesday night, and there's no telling what it's going to be like a week from now. But maybe you have a unique perspective and you say, there's a great opportunity to minister to people. It's in seasons like this that we have opportunities to minister to the physical needs of people around us, and in the meanwhile, deal with their greater need, which is their spiritual need. And the physical need is often the surface, but underneath is the fear, the concern that people have about what is in the future and what is going to happen and what will happen to me if I get sick and how can I be safe and all these sorts of things. And as God's people, I think that we have real answers from God's Word. We have real truth to be able to share with people during times of unsettling like this. Do you know, down through the ages, God's people have been known not only for their courage in the face of fearful situations like this, but also for the love that they have showed to people around them. There have been opportunities down through the ages where, for instance, our Baptist forefathers were being persecuted, and yet they were the ones that were showing great compassion and love. They were the ones that were reaching out to their neighbors, despite the fact that they were at some risk. And so we understand this morning that with crisis comes opportunity. Don't get so worried about yourself and where you're going to get hand sanitizer that you forget that God may be opening some unique doors of ministry for you. Yes, sir. Let's remember to pray for one another. Today, I was gratified to see that our president has called for today to be a national day of prayer. Amen. I believe as God's people, we should be praying for our country. We should be praying for our president. We should be praying for our state and local leaders and the decisions that they have to make. They're under incredible pressure and having to make decisions that they probably never thought they would have to make, and we need to uphold them in prayer. We need to be praying for one another and asking for God's protection and God's care. Be praying for our missionaries, each of them on the foreign field, the ones that are on the foreign field. Even Nat and Ann are having to make some decisions about what they're going to do in the next few days here and how they're going to proceed. And so they're all in unique positions. Remember to pray for them. Remember to pray most of all that God would open our eyes to the opportunity and allow us to be those who bear the love of Christ to the world around us. We live in exciting times. We are going through a very traumatic crisis, but at the same time, it's an exciting opportunity for us to be a part of serving the Lord. And I want to keep our focus on that as God's people. By the way, in case you need hand sanitizer, I heard there's a guy in Tennessee that has 17,000 bottles. If you can find him, maybe you can buy him. Anyway, listen, if we can't laugh, we're going to be in trouble, right? We're going to be in trouble. Thank you for your attention. Thank you for your attendance. Appreciate each of you being here. And we're going to take a short break here before our morning service. Lord willing, we're going to have an evening service, and Brother Nat will be preaching this evening, but just take into consideration all of the things that I said and make a decision about what is best for you in attendance and so on. And we sure appreciate each and every one of you. I think on the other side of this, we're going to appreciate our church family a whole lot more than we did before. And we'll be thankful when we have the opportunity to assemble normally once again. So let's take a break, and then we'll come back for the morning service.